Hey guys, and welcome into another video. Today we're going to be doing a kind of different video. We're going to be doing trade rumors. I mentioned this in my podcast. I might have mentioned it in my last video as well, but we're kind of just going to be going through, at least starting with the Giants, if we want to do other teams and see what they need to do as well with this deadline that's coming up towards the end of the month. Definitely know. Before we do get started, I want you to be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new, check that notification bell, make sure you guys are notified from every video. Over the last month, we kind of have just kind of sat pretty at where we are as a channel. I definitely want to grow that a lot more. I know it mostly is due to my faults. Obviously, I haven't been uploading as much as I used to, but I do want to keep growing this channel, and this is one way I want to do it. So if you guys do enjoy these hypothetical scenarios, we're going to be going through a lot of them today, so definitely be sure to leave a like. If you're not a Giants fan, feel free to stick around. Tell me what you like or what you don't like about it, and let me know what your team is, and maybe we'll be able to go and do that as well. But we are here for the New York Giants. Obviously, it is my football team, and obviously they are 0-4. So right now they're slated to get a top 5 pick at the moment, and it sucks even hearing that. But ironically, if they get one win and the rest of the NFC East loses this week, obviously if we won against the Cowboys, which I don't think is going to happen, we have that over them. But we'd be tied for first place. That's how bad our division is. The Eagles will have the tiebreaker because they have a tie, but that's how bad the division is. So right now, as sad as it is at 0-4, the division's up for the taking. Now, no Saquon Barkley doesn't look too promising. I'm not really hoping for the playoffs at this point. I had them projected for 7 wins with Saquon Barkley. So without Saquon Barkley, it's definitely a big difference. But Devonta Freeman's definitely getting integrated a lot more now. He had 15 carries or 15 touches last week in last week's game. So I definitely want to see more from Freeman. I think that's going to be good. But we're going to be going to some trade ideas. We're going to be saying, hey, who should we trade away? Who should we try and bring in? I have a bunch of examples of people I want to bring in. Some of them more better than others. And then I have just a stupid dream scenario situation towards the end of the video that you definitely want to stick around and check out. So without further ado, we're going to get started. We're going to start off just looking at the team, what needs to improve, what is good right now, and going over somebody we want to trade out, and then we'll go all the way down the line. So once again, leave a like if you do enjoy, and let's get started. So looking at the Giants team, here's the thing. There's a lot of holes, but if you're a Giants fan and you're watching this video, you know what the holes are and how big they are, but you also know how those holes have been affecting the team way more than anything else. So the first thing you're going to notice right off the bat is, quarterback Daniel Jones. Depending on how you look at him, I think he's still a very solid NFL quarterback. I think he's the quarterback for the future. I think that, he's got to work on the turnovers, definitely. But there's a lot of quarterbacks that have never been able to really master the art of not turning the ball over as much, but have been able to excel their game in the offensive ways to where it minimizes that effect. I think Daniel Jones has that ability. He's able to take control of the game. He's able to do game-winning drives. That pick last week against the Rams, obviously it sucked. He could have made a different decision, but in the end of it, I think that it was a great play by Williams. But I think Jones is there to stay. I don't think that's really a position we need to upgrade unless he plays completely horrible. I think he's just been very much bitten by the injury bug. Not really himself as much. He missed a couple games last year, but definitely with the team. Tate's been suspended early last year. Slayton was hurt for early last year. Shepard's always been hurt when he's there. Ingram was hurt all of last year. Saquon's obviously missed more time than he's played with Daniel Jones, which is just it all lines up together. So without further ado, Daniel Jones I think is a good quarterback. We're not going to touch him. Running back wise, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Freeman, nothing to talk about there. That's really good. Slayton is an awesome receiver. I think he's going to be one of the better receivers in a couple of years. Ironically, in the NFL, I think that's how good of a receiver he is. He reminds me a lot of a young Stephon Diggs coming out, being a mid-round talent. A lot of that due to injuries in college. And he comes out, balls out in his rookie year. Up until that week 2, I think he had the most touchdowns since week 4 of last year because when he came back from healthy. So Slayton's an absolute monster when he's healthy. He hasn't really been able to get it clicking ever since the Saquon injury. So we'll see what happens there. Golden Tate, as much as I like Golden Tate, the contract's big. He is an older player. He doesn't really fit the timeline as much. So this is a guy who I think teams that are going to make the playoffs and need an extra weapon might want to look and trade for. I think that's something we want to look at, especially to get the money off the books, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then we have C.J. Board as the number 3, and we need to upgrade that. So receiver is definitely a focal point. I think if there's anyone we're going to make a move for at the deadline or prior to the deadline, I think it's for a receiver. And I talk about that a lot in this video, so be sure to keep watching for that. Offensive line, there's really not a weak spot. Nick Gates is obviously the weakest link. Cam Fleming actually has done a pretty decent job for putting him in the starting lineup. I think Matt Parrott will be a starter next year. I think he has that potential to be there. But Thomas has held his own. Really, it's just the team has not been able to meshed well together because of the poor play, because of Saquon's injury. because of the Shepard injury. It's definitely a lot of things culminating together to where they're giving Daniel Jones a good 2 to 3 seconds most of the time. But every time, every offensive line is going to give up a couple plays where there's a sack or anything. But they've been able to give him some time. They're better in pass blocking than they are in run blocking. I think anyone can say that. That's definitely something to work on. But Hernandez is there to stay. Zeitler's there to stay. Thomas is obviously there to stay. So it's really Fleming and Gates that are really the question marks. But we do have Shane Lemieux behind him, Foley behind him, Perk behind him. I think those are younger guys that they really want to acclimate to the line. So I wouldn't say that there's anything you need to make a move for at the deadline. Maybe in the draft next year, maybe in free agency. But I think you're pretty much set there at the offensive line for the year. Going to the defensive side, there's really only one spot that I would say to look towards, and that's a corner. Now, I don't have us getting any corner, or I don't have any corner matchups or anything for us in this video. You could look for a team that maybe has a surplus of corners, go to the Patriots and try and get their third or fourth string or something. There's definitely things you could do, but right now I think just the defense hasn't been the problem. That's really what it is. Even the San Francisco game, they were out there, I think, was 45 minutes or something close to it. Any defense is going to give up points when they're playing 45 minutes out of a 60-minute game. Like, it's just an absolute – it's insane how much they've had to play. But overall, they've been able to hold teams down. The Rams, was a close game, a one-possession game. Bears, we lost last second. It's a one-possession game. Even week 1 was against the oh my God, who did we play week 1? The Steelers. And that was a really tough game. We held them to under 30 points. I think they barely got 20. Did they even get 20? I don't remember the game. That was that long ago. But either way, the defense has done well. We see it. Offensive line. Lawrence, Tomlinson, Williams, I love it. They've been doing exactly what they want, filling the holes, getting tackles when they need to. They're getting sacks, but that's not what they're asked for. They're asked to completely plug the middle to where no one's going to run up the middle. They have to go to the edge, and that's where Lorenzo Carter, Marcus Golden, Kyler Fackrell, Zimenez until he just got hurt, all come in. So I think that has been very well. Martinez and Downs have done good. Crowder has had a really good campaign this season. I'm actually excited to see what Crowder can do for the future. Bradbury's been amazing this year. He's been worth the money. Completely. He hasn't been a shut down Ramsey corner, but he's definitely been a very solid corner, very much worth the money, given up very little to receivers. He held Allen Robinson to, I think, 3 catches when he was playing the Giants. So those are things I take away and I'm happy with. I know PFF is loving Bradbury this year as well. Yedem is actually a really good pickup. I said it when we got him. I was happy that we got him, and he's actually been very well. I'm glad that he took over that second corner over Ballantyne, because Ballantyne's been struggling for a long time. You have Darnay Holmes behind him. If you need to, you can probably, I think when McKinney comes back, they'll probably use Ryan and Love more at the corner position than the safety position. But until then, Peppers and Love and Ryan are also at safety. I'm happy with all of that. I'm completely happy with all of that on defense. I'm okay if we don't make any moves because of that. The corner position, like I said, it's a need, but I think you can wait until the end of the season because really it's not a glaring hole. Really what we're going to focus on is that offensive side of the football. And there is one player on defense that I have us, looking at. But other than that, I think this is something that we can do here. So first thing we're going to do is go to my first trade, and that is Golden Tate. Getting Golden Tate out of New York. Now, I'm a fan of Golden Tate. I really do like Golden Tate. I was happy we signed him. I think it was a good signing, especially with the loss of Odell. To get a guy like Golden Tate at least filled that hole to where it wasn't like we're not going to fill it at all. We filled it with a veteran receiver who is good for receptions, and we're kind of ready to build the offense around Saquon Barkley. I like the idea. It was good while it lasted, but here's the thing. We're going to have a long season ahead of us. We're not really fighting for the playoffs. If it happens, cool, but we're not really fighting for it. So the best thing we can do here is go and send Tate to a playoff team. And this article actually comes from a Titans blog where they're saying that they want to get Golden Tate. Now, the trade that they said is sending a 4th for Golden Tate and a 6th-round pick. I don't think we need to throw in a 6th-round pick. I think Golden Tate for a 4th, Golden Tate for a 3rd even. I think a 4th is probably the better thing, but Golden Tate for a 4th-round pick straight up, I think would be a solid thing for us. Obviously, we're losing out on a receiver. This trade is really more or less giving up on the season because then you're going to be down a lot of receivers, But I think that sending Golden Tate, as good as he's been for the Giants when he's healthy, he's made plays. He's also missed some plays. I think that with his contract, it's not going to be something you want to keep on the board. So if you're able to send him to the Titans, where they're trying to win this playoff series, obviously, you're able to send him there, get a pick out of them, and they're trying to go as far as they can go. It's going to help them out. They'll have Davis, they'll have Brown, they'll have Tate going into the playoffs, plus Khalif Raymond, Humphreys, etc. So I think it's going to be a very solid thing for them. But for us, what we're able to do with that is get a pick out of it. Get not only save the money, but get the pick out of it. I think that's something that we could really work on. I know in the article they're saying that they would rather us rework the contract. It's obviously a Titans article. I'm not going to go into, they're going to want to win the trade, but I think sending Golden Tate to a team, even if it's not the Titans, like the Titans, sending him to Green Bay even, and just getting some sort of value, a day 2 pick is what I would ask for Golden Tate, a day 2 pick. Anything else you want to give us, cool, but a day 2 pick would be something that I would really like to see. So if we're able to do that, it saves us a lot of money. And then the reason why I'm so happy about that and the reason why I want that is because Leonard Williams has been worth the money. Whether you like him or you're not, whether you like that Gettleman traded for him or not, no matter what or how you feel about the situation, the contract dispute last year in the offseason was tough to go through with Leonard Williams because we traded his capital and it seemed like he was not wanting to. He wants to get paid. That's really what he wants. He wants his money. And he's going out there this year, and he's actually been playing very well. When he's not making statistical, stops, he's doing it within his realm. He's plugging the hole. He's forcing the tackles to the outside. He's had a pretty solid season for us. From what I've seen from us watching the Giants play, as hard as it is to watch them, he has done what he has been asked to do. He's looked like a leader on that defensive line with Tomlinson. They look like a good front three, 3 big guys who are able to plug the hole, can get around the edge, but really you're getting them there to make sure that they can plug that hole. I like how we have it set up. I really do. I think that those 3, keeping them together should be a focal point for the defense because I think that's something you can definitely build on. He's still, I think, 26 years old. He's not like he's an old player. He's older than the other guys, obviously, but I think that creates that importance for him, and I think keeping him around would be good. If we're going to keep him around, I don't think it's going to be the price tag that we have on him on his franchise tag, but I do think that we're going to, around $10 million, if I had to guess, for Leonard Williams, maybe a little less, but I'd hope around the $10 million, $12 million mark is where we could be able to keep him, and Golden Tate's making around there anyway. So if we're able to get rid of Golden Tate's contract, pretty much transfer that money to Leonard Williams and extend him, I think that would be perfect for the Giants, and we still get that 4th round pick as well. So I like those deals. So anyway, like I said, if we keep Golden Tate and we're trying to win and get to the playoffs this season with Golden Tate there, completely fine with it as well. Trading him in the offseason would work too if we need to, but I think that if we're going to move Golden Tate at this deadline, send him, get a pick, and make sure that they take the money. Do not take any of the money because we need to use that money towards players like Leonard Williams. Next person I want to go to, the only defensive player, and then we're going to get right into the receivers. The rest of it is going to be receivers, is going after a young player like Rashaan Gary. Now, Rashaan Gary was drafted, I think it was 12th in the draft maybe he was even top 10. But he was drafted by the Packers to be this impact edge rusher. And then last season, they never used him really. He has not been used in this offense, and it doesn't really have anything to do with him. It's just the fact that the Smith brothers have been insane. Kenny Clark has been an absolute beast in the middle. They've really been able to use the rest of their team a lot to where he's not even a linebacker for them. And that draft capital and that, not bust, but disappointment so far is definitely something that, the Packers could move on from. I think it's not something that they really care because they're in a win-now mode. They have Rodgers. They're definitely trying to win now. So getting rid of a guy like a Gary, I'm not saying this is going to be a Gary for Tate trade straight up, which I think would be awesome. I'm not saying that's going to be the case. I'm saying that if this is something that they're able to do, sending a 3rd round pick for Rashaan Gary, getting something out, because here's the thing, like it even says here, he was the number 1 recruit in college football coming out. He was a beast at Michigan. We all know that. But look at, just what he's done. 2 tackles, 4 combined tackles. 7 tackles on the season. 4 of them were assisted. He's had a sack and a half. He's definitely utilized a little bit more this season. But overall, there's not a need for him in Green Bay. And I think that you could capitalize off of getting him for lower than you get a pick like this. And he's only 22 years old. You can develop him, become an edge rusher on the opposite side of Carter. On the opposite side of Fack or whoever you want. I think you can definitely utilize him at that point. You can put him at a defensive end spot if you need to. But I think a young guy like Rashaan Gary would definitely blossom in a field like New York. So not too much behind that. That's just something I think would be cool to go after. Packers fans, let me know what you think about that. If you guys are big fans of Gary, if you want to see you guys get anything out of Gary because of how good the Smith brothers have played. It's definitely a weird situation where they drafted him to be this edge rusher. For them, and then they ended up signing 2 of the better pass rushers that we had last year in the NFL. So that's something that I would think. But now we're going into the wide receivers. Before I even click to the people, I have, let's see here, 6. I have 6 receiver candidates, right? One of them's insane. One of them's not going to happen, right? But the other ones I think are very much in the realm of possibility, and I'll explain each and every one of them and why I think they're a good fit. I think they'll only go after one of these guys. I don't think that 2 of them will go. But these are just guys that I think have value and can create an impact on your team. And I'll explain how and why and etc. But if this team or the season is to be salvaged at all, I think making a move for any of these players is a necessity at this point, because the offense has scored 3 touchdowns this season. It needs to be more explosion. If you have Tate, if you have Shepard coming back, you have Slayton, get another receiver that you can throw in there and actually have corners care about them. CJ Board is not getting locked down. It's just he's not at the realm of talent that we need for something. So we'll be looking at a couple guys here, and we'll go from there. So the first guy I want to talk to is on a team that right now is actually playing very well compared to what they've looked like the past few years. They've been very exciting to watch, especially because of their new quarterback at the helm. But this guy had a good season last year, but this year really has been falling down on the depth chart, and we've really seen that they're not really going towards him much, and that's why I think they'll be available to trade him. That is going to Ohio, and that is Cincinnati, where we are going to be going after Golden Tate, or not Golden Tate. I already messed that up. Wow, I literally was like, I'm not going to mess this up in the video. I already messed it up. On Tate. Now, getting 2 Tates on the field would be confusing. I get it. But on Tate's a big body, man. 23 years old, 6'5". He uses his body. He's a goal line threat, which really we don't have that. Evan Ingram's not a huge tight end. Tate's small. Slayton is our best, bet in the red zone as a target. But getting a guy like Auden Tate is just an absolute big body receiver. And I don't think he'll take too much to get. I don't even know. He's drafted in the 7th round, late 7th round, and he's proven to be a very solid receiver at the NFL level. He's had good games. But with how Cincinnati's been running their offense, Mixon had 4 touchdowns last week. They've been using Bernard a lot. They've have to accumulate for getting AJ Green back involved. Obviously Tyler Boyd's there as well. I just think that this is the perfect opportunity to go for a guy where he's young, he's going to help you, and he's probably not going to cost too much because he's not too involved with their offense. So 6'5", 227, like I said, that's something that we need. That's something we've never really had as a Giants fan. Since Plaxico Burress, really a big-bodied receiver. And I think that Auden Tate is going to be that for us. If you were able to get him, I think it would probably take a day 2 pick. If you want like a 4th rounder, maybe if they wanted a player, you could flip something, maybe get a player in a 6th rounder or something for him. I just don't think that there's going to be that much of a price tag on him. But the impact he's going to have on the Giants is going to be immense because he'll slide right into wide receiver number 3. He'll be your wide receiver. He'll be up there to get those deep balls. He'll be there for the goal line targets. He'll be there for the red zone targets. I think that those are the targets that you really need as a Giants fan. We need those explosive plays. Slayton is being asked to do way too much. He hasn't been able to get involved. It's definitely messing with him. Getting a guy like Auden Tate, I think this should be a top target for them. I'm making. By the way, I've thought of these all by myself. I haven't used any sources. I don't have any sources. I haven't looked at other articles. I'm just doing this all. But I think a guy like Auden Tate, what it's going to do, you have this big-bodied receiver, right? They're going to have to focus on him because he's obviously going to be a deep threat. He can jump up the ladder and get a ball. You have Slayton, whose speed kills. He's able to make these athletic catches. He's able to do a lot with him. You need him to get into open space. Without that big-body receiver, he really hasn't been able to create that space. And with those two combined, you have Golden Tate, who's able to play that slot role perfectly, who's able to do those quick routes, who's able to make his route running back to where it was, and kind of get more involved in the offense through that, because right now Slayton and Tate are just getting covered way too well for this team, and I think that getting a guy like Auden Tate would definitely help. So enough on Auden Tate. Don't want to spend 20 minutes on him, but I think that would be prime target number 1 for the Giants. Now, these aren't in any order. It just so happened that Auden Tate was the first one I put on there. So the second one is Dante Pettis out of San Francisco. This is a guy who, ironically it says here they shouldn't part ways with him. This is a guy who, at the beginning of his career, first year, he had a very solid upside. You looked at him and you're like, hey, this guy looks pretty good. Since then, he really hasn't even played. That's how far he's fallen down the depth chart. They took Ayuk over him. Ayuk's looking like a beast. Kendrick Bourne's been playing well. Deebo Samuel they took over and in that offense, and he's looked insanely well. So it's pretty much Samuel, Ayuk, and then after that, they're going to have, obviously, Bourne and, Trent Taylor, whoever it is. But Pettis is a guy who's kind of on the outskirts. And I think that getting a guy like him and salvaging what he has left in him, he's 24 years old, he still has that upside. Getting him into a different situation could help blossom him. Again, like the Auden Tate thing. He's going to get into a role right away. He's going to be that wide receiver 3 for the Giants, most likely, right away, as long as he can prove it in practice that he still has that upside. I think he showed enough his rookie year that he can be a decent receiver at the most, or at the least in this NFL. So I think that getting a guy like him, salvaging what he has left, and seeing what you can get out of him would definitely help if you're trying to make a playoff push. But when you look at a team like the Cowboys, who are going up tomorrow, I'm recording this on the 10th. If you see a team like the Cowboys and you're like, hey, they're scoring 40 points even in losses. How are we going to combat that? Because we haven't even scored 3 touchdowns, and they've scored 4 last week. Our defense is able to keep us in games. It's definitely, the defense has been helping us a lot. It's not like we're losing by 40. The 49ers game was really that anomaly, but we need some sort of offense to be gathered. I think a guy like Dante Pettis is there. I didn't even mention him, so I'm going to mention it now just because I see it. The 49ers did cut Mohamed Sanu. If we were really trying to go to the playoffs this year, and we're like, man, we need another receiver right now, Mohamed Sanu wouldn't be bad. We could sign him for very, very cheap, probably the minimum deal, and get impact out of him as well. I didn't mention him in here, but do want to say that. So this is just ironic. This is saying why the Niners shouldn't part ways with him, and then this one says it's time to part ways with him. So I think getting Dante Pettis, you literally could probably get him for a 6th or a 7th rounder. It doesn't even have to be this year. So it's probably next year's 6th rounder pick, and I think that would be definitely worth it. He'd probably be a better option than who would be taking that 6th round. Going into the next one, this is more of a veteran receiver, but definitely a better receiver that would, I think, accumulate well, and that's Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills in Miami was kind of a star. He really was. He was becoming a better and better receiver every year, especially while Parker wasn't being used. Once Adam Gase left, he definitely didn't have much of an impact. They sent him to Houston, and Houston really hasn't used him. He's the 4th receiver in the depth chart. I think that's another reason you strike with him. Again, another guy you probably could send a 5th rounder for him, a 4th or 5th rounder, and get him. And I think that getting him to not only a market like New York that has that spotlight on him, but getting him into an offense where he's going to be accumulated right away is going to create that, drive in him again to where he's going to want to play like he was on the Dolphins. I forgot he even went to the Saints as well, but like he was on the Dolphins. So when you look at what he's able to do in Miami, when he was that top receiver or leading receiver, he was able to do a lot, man. He was always getting touchdowns, always getting receptions. He was using his speed. He was breaking people on routes. He was able to do a lot as a receiver. Getting him to the Giants, he'll be doing. I'm not gonna keep mentioning every receiver, but he'll be slotting in with Tate and Slayton. Those will let their roles expand a lot more and give him the upside of being able to create his own space and create some offense for this team. That's really what it is. We need offense. This is more or less okay. Let's try and get a guy and try and push for the playoffs. I don't think we should do a playoff push, but I do think a guy like Kenny Stills, you could probably get him for the cheap, capital-wise, and then go from there. I think he would be a very good person to slot into this offense and see how it works. So I definitely think that's somebody that we could target as well. 2 more, and then we have the big one. D.D. Westbrook's the next guy. Young as well, 26 years old. Obviously not young, but not old as well. But really another guy who's kind of fallen down in the depth chart, hasn't been too much utilized. I think he was hurt as well, so I'm not sure exactly how it's going. But Keelan Cole is looking good again, so they're using him a lot more. Chark is obviously a beast. They just drafted Laviska Shenault, who's been very phenomenal for his games. I love Shenault coming out of college, so I'm glad that he's doing that. But really, this team has a different identity, and I think that Westbrook's kind of on the outskirts looking in. Again, another guy we could probably send a 6th or 7th round pick, get him to your team, and he's going to make that immediate impact. Don't really have to say too much about him. I think that he's just going to be able to create that space, just be another receiver. Again, these are all receivers I think will be an upgrade over what we have in C.J. Board right now. And then once Shepard comes back, they'd be a very solid wide receiver 4 on the depth chart. So with that saying, D.D. Westbrook is another guy. Is it Day or D.D.? I don't even know, but his name is DeCrick. Sorry, DeCrick. Okay, I mean, I've never heard DeCrick before, but cool. I mean, D.D. Westbrook, I think is another guy we can go. Last one before we go to the crazy one. Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds is another guy. I'm not going to keep saying it, but he's fallen down on the depth chart, man. They drafted Van Jefferson, who I think that they're going to play over him. I think Van Jefferson is the future, with Woods and Kupp there as well. So getting a guy like Reynolds might cost a little bit more just because of his youth and because he's done a lot for them in his years. But overall, I think that you can get him for a solid, 5th round pick maybe. And I think that he can make that impact for you as well. Slide in that 3rd receiver role, be that 4th receiver, and just do exactly what he does for the Rams. When someone goes down, he steps in. He has pretty good games. He steps back down when they get back to healthy. I think he'd do the same thing for the Giants. I think it would be an impact for the Giants. Now, the last one, I know it's crazy. I know it's insane. I know this video's been long. So thank you for staying with me. Leave a like if you enjoy. Please don't hit the dislike button when I say this, no matter where you are on the spectrum. But the last person that I think would be not only fun, but would help this team out a lot to go after, Odell Beckham Jr. Obviously, Odell Beckham is not on the Giants anymore. He was on the Giants for most of his career. Sent to Cleveland for that insane deal where we turned the pick into Dexter Lawrence, O'Shane Zimenez, and we also got not Kevin Zeitler, but we also got Jabril Peppers. Jabril Peppers has been amazing for us. He's a captain. He was a Pro Bowler, I believe, for special teams. I think he's been a Pro Bowl. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he's been a Pro Bowl. Dexter Lawrence has been very good. I'm so happy to have him. I think he's been the best. He's been the best Clemson lineman out of that draft. Farrell and Wilkins were there, but Lawrence was the one that ended up being the best out of the three, at least right now. And then we also in the trade, not in the same trade, but in the trade, Olivier Vernon was traded for Zeitler, which was an absolute steal. I can't believe we did that deal still. I can't believe it at all. But Odell Beckham's, his Cleveland career's been weird, man. They didn't really utilize him too much last year. This year, he really hasn't been utilized too much. He had a great game against Dallas, but I thought he was going to have a great game against Dallas. I didn't think he'd be that good. But really, when you watch him in Cleveland, he's kind of lowered himself down to just a pretty good receiver, and that's kind of weird to say because Odell always was thought of as a top 5 receiver, and now I think it's hard to make an argument that he's a top 10 receiver, and that's just because of one, being in Cleveland. There's no more spotlight really. People talk about Cleveland, but really it's not that spotlight. So when you watch him in the field, he's definitely more calm. He's definitely more mature, I'd say. He's definitely matured a lot more in Cleveland. But for what we've seen, it's a brand new regime in Cleveland. We don't know. He's always been talked about, rumored, and then they say that he's not being shipped, and then rumored, and then we're keeping him, and whatever it is. I just think that there's always been speculation around him. So for the Giants, I don't know if Gettleman would want to bring him back. I don't know if that's even a process. Like I said, this is kind of a crazier thing. But what would it take to get Odell Beckham Jr.? Now, you look at Cleveland, their offense is very run-heavy. Stefanski runs a very run-heavy offense, so Odell isn't really a necessity. I think Juice can stay as that number 1 role, and they can do something else. So what would it take to get Odell? I think probably second-round pick this year, because with how it's looking right now, that's probably going to be a top 40 pick. Undoubtedly, I think it's going to be a top 40 pick. They're getting a top 40 pick. I know, so second-round pick. Probably another pick, maybe a 5th rounder this year, and then maybe a 3rd next year. I think could get a deal done because that's getting value for them. It's not giving up a 1st rounder, but it's giving up damn close to it. If they, maybe they want something else. Maybe they need something on defense. Throw them a young player like throw in Lorenzo Carter if you have to. I'd say not to, but throw in Lorenzo Carter if you have to. Maybe they need a corner. Throw in Valentine. I don't know. Just throwing in stuff to kind of make a deal get done, I think would be cool to see. I think bringing Odell back to New York, I think the fans would love it. I think Odell would love it too. As much as he acts like he doesn't miss New York, I think that everyone can tell. Cleveland ain't New York. We talked about that before. He definitely would shine a lot more, and I think it would kind of bring that star power back out of him. He had a great game against the Cowboys, but really we don't see that star power out of him. It seems like we force ourselves to talk about Odell nowadays. So now we look at it. He goes back to New York. He's in that big market. Now we get to see that what we've never seen. Daniel Jones with Odell Beckham and Saquon Barkley. We've never been able to see that. Saquon and Odell would have been a great combo to grow together, and it was obviously taken away. I don't think it was for a bad reason. I think that everything that was done was actually better than keeping Odell. I think that the team wouldn't be as good a position if we still had Odell. But getting him back for that, I think would be great. I think that, maybe you send Golden Tate on the back end of the deal with them. So they get Golden Tate back plus the picks. Maybe that would work. It kind of keeps the money in the same boat as well. So getting him back to New York, I think he'll get that fire back in him. I think he'll want to show out again to say, like, hey, I'm still the guy for New York. I still am. Daniel Jones, I think, would love to have a receiver like Odell as well. And then when you look at the team now, a better offensive line, Saquon Barkley coming back, you look at the next year, right? Let's say next year. You have Saquon Barkley at running back. You have Daniel Jones at quarterback. You have a solid offensive line, hopefully added to as well. So I think it would be a very solid offensive line. Evan Ingram's hopefully still there, still healthy. And then at the receiver spot, you have Slayton lined up on the opposite side of Odell Beckham. I think that that's something that would be awesome to see. Plus, the defense is looking great. So let me know what you guys think about this whole video. Obviously, this is a more crazy one. I'm not saying this is going to happen in the slightest. I think the best thing to do would be go after a guy like Auden Tate. If I had to make an order, I'd say Auden Tate's the number 1. I'd go probably Josh Reynolds second. Third, I'd go Stills, Pettis, Westbrook, and then obviously I would love Odell. I just think I'm not even going to rank that, but let me know what you guys think about it. Let me know, out of those guys, who would you pick to trade for? Who do you think we should ship Tate out? Do you think we should keep him? Basically, what do you think about the Giants? This was the 30-minute video, so thank you so much for watching if you have. If you haven't already, please leave a like on it. Subscribe if you're new. Let me know what you think about Giants fans. Let me know if you guys want to do this for your team. I know this is a very more in-depth video talking about it, so let me know what you guys think about it. And if you did enjoy it, please be sure to leave a like. If you didn't, just refresh the page. Let me know what you think a second time. Without further ado, that's going to be it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one.